Welcome to the Great British Pinball Podcast, and here are your hosts Scott Rundell and Neil McRae.
Welcome everybody, I'm Neil McRae, and my partner in crime.
Hello, and I'm Scott Rundell.
Hey Scott, how are you doing? Good week?
Yeah, not too bad, man. It's been a long week, but I'm glad it's Friday. Definitely, that's one thing for sure.
I tell you, amen to that. Very glad it's Friday, although I've got a family birthday here tomorrow, so you might hear a noise. It's a bouncy castle. It's right outside my shed. I don't know if you can hear the noise of it, but hopefully you can. But yeah, so obviously the big news over the last couple of weeks was Pinfest, and probably the bigger news from last week is I actually ended up going, which wasn't in my plan. And I said it to a few people, like, how come you're here? I was actually I was supposed to be in the US for work, but my boss was presenting something in Europe, and actually at the Holland Formula One. He wasn't well, and I got asked to take his place. So I flew back to Holland, did my spiel, couldn't find a cheap way of getting back to California, so I came back home because my wife, because I wasn't going to be here, she had plans, she wasn't around. So I went to the club on Thursday night, and Matt said, hey, you should come to Pinfest, you got nothing else to do. And I was like, if I can get a hotel room, I'll come. And and I told Matt to take a couple of my games, because he was taking a van load of games up. So he took Deadpool, and he actually was going to take Godzilla, but there was a big cry out that it might...
Multiple Godzilla's already there, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, that was it. And they didn't want to take money away from the charity game, which we will have to come back to the charity game, because there was a big story there. But
yes, there was.
Yeah, no. So anyway, Chris had bought an Iron Maiden of Chris B, and he brought it there. So, and then the next day I phoned the hotel, got a room, jumped in the car, and drove up. That was it, basically. Didn't really plan very much. It was great to see everybody. It was a great show. I think Phil and the team, they took over the hotel. I thought that was fantastic. I was pleased to see that my prediction of Scooby-Doo not lasting more than a couple of hours worked out.
It lasted a little bit longer than that, but yeah.
It was down by the end of Friday night. It was kind of funny. I mean, everyone says, well, people say, "Oh, my game's fine." In a home environment, these games are probably never a problem.
They will be, yeah.
But
yeah,
this is my thing. I'm like, and we talked about this before. I don't want to fiddle with games. I want to play them.
Yeah.
So when I get home,
let the record show, by the way, because a lot of people said this to me during the show. They said, "Oh, Alien: The Pinball Brothers one was down." I said, "No, it was sold, and the person asked for it to be turned off, so that no one could play it." I got to admit, that brings up a whole discussion about that. I think there needs to be some clarification of rules. I think if someone brings a machine, I think personally,
it should be there for the weekend.
It should be there for the duration of the show.
I agree.
But,
so
yeah, we can discuss that a bit later.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one for Phil, because he doesn't want, some people do bring games to sell them.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not an easy one, but you want to be able to play games, and actually for that one, I mean, the guy saying, "Oh, I'll turn it off because it's going to get a couple of hundred plays on it," it's a bit ridiculous in my view. But
well, it's like, obviously, you remember I was the first person to get an Alien. I had the glorious prototype from James, who actually was at the show at Pinfest.
Yeah. James, it looked like he'd eaten a few pies, mind you, but
he didn't come say hi to me. I got to admit, I would have liked him to say.
I didn't expect him to come and say hi to me.
I would have liked him to say, "Sorry, Scott, for selling you a prototype that I didn't tell you was a prototype." But never mind. Anyway, but yeah, I think my perspective. We may as well talk about like machines on site at Pinfest, since we're on the subject. Anyway, I think personally, at least from my point of view, when I had that prototype there, it was played throughout the duration of the week, weekend, I should say, sorry. And that was the expectation from me, is I'm buying a machine that's brought to the show for the purposes of the show, therefore it should be left on.
100%.
And I think like that's only fair. I think there's, people come there to play games. It costs them a lot for entry. I think there needs to probably be something that in the rules that says like if you're going to bring a game to the show, it's got to be there for the duration of the show.
Yeah,
Otherwise, don't bring it for sale.
100%. I mean, you know, and I mean, these games are built to be placed in arcades. You know, they're not built.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Unless it's Spinal Tap, they're not built for to break in 3 seconds. But
yeah.
I mean, you know, I had my Deadpool there, and my Deadpool, I think, got 300 plays the whole weekend. And you know, I ran a mini comp on it, won a Pinball Republic T-shirt. If you got the high score, actually, which reminds me, I need to send one to Moonraker, old my good buddy Pete down in Salisbury, special and lit.
Do you know what? I didn't even know you had that competition on because I showed up in that top 10 and I was like, I didn't even give it a moment's thought.
There's a big sign
nice
on
to
the
do.
back of the game.
It said no. To be fair, it did say double the achievements or something like that, but it didn't say anything about a competition reward. I think a lot of people weren't aware of that.
It was. I thought I put it. Maybe I didn't put it on there. I did put Achievos thing. Maybe I didn't put it.
Did,
Anyway,
yeah.
I would have liked to have put a screen up with the scores on it, but anyway, I'll be honest with you, it was partly to give that a bit of a test ahead of the UK Open, so see how that works, because we're gonna have a load of games with Stern Insider Connect, and it has been a bit flaky, but unfortunately we couldn't get Iron Maiden on because I forgot to bring something, but unsurprisingly, given the fact I wasn't planning on being there, I didn't have much gear in the boot, but yeah, I mean, I loved that. You know, Scooby Doo's a lot of positive feedback about it, obviously, and also Big Lebowski. Everyone raving about that. I kind of
It's
find
weird,
that,
you know, that everyone says like acts like it's a new game. I suppose because from what I've seen, at least historically wise, it's been out for a long time, right?
I played it in 2016, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say,
At the launch, right? So they had this big hotel, Chicago Expo. They had this big launch. They were all drinking champagne. It was like
yeah,
life. I'm like, I was kind of new at pinball then, but decided to go to Expo just to because I was able to, and I thought I'd be able to buy a load of parts for the games that I want. And actually, Expo then wasn't that great. It's a lot better now, but they had this massive party. They had this big room. And a lot of people were saying, "How can they afford to be doing this?" And turns out they couldn't. But
I mean,
yeah,
like, they've definitely like come through at least now. I mean, obviously it is a slow production line. I've seen the tour
yeah. I
of
mean,
the
my
factory,
hats.
which is pretty nice. You
Yeah,
can
I
tell
mean,
they're a small outfit.
my hats off to them for sorting out all the people who gave them money.
Yeah.
To some extent, I mean, I'd still say they were a bit hard done by, but I mean, I personally think the game.
Personally, I think it's a good game. It definitely reminds me of a Bally Williams era style game in the '90s. That is, like, you know, it's a good theme integration, a lot of mechs. I think if you're a fan of the film, it's a bit of a no-brainer to go
Oh
for
yeah,
it.
absolutely. I mean, I think the film's okay. I think it's
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I've watched it, and me and wife, we've never watched it until we actually went to Pinball Republic, and I think somebody had it at
yeah.
at your club.
Thomas had one. That's right.
That's right, and it was nice for him to put that out for the public because it was like, God, you never hear it. You always hear about it, but you never play it. And I thought, yeah, it plays well, but then I just thought, I'll go watch the film, see what it's all about then, because I
Yeah.
was a bit like, what is this all about? Bowling alleys and stuff like that, and carpets. I didn't get it, right? So I watched the film, and I was a bit like, it's all right. It's obviously a
Yeah, I
bit more
mean,
of a cult film, I think, right?
it's okay, but it's not like, you know, it's like everyone's got their cult film. You know, a lot of people rave on
Absolutely,
about
yeah.
the other big title everyone on Back to the Future. Look, I love Back to the Future, but I don't have pictures of DeLoreans on my roof or
You'd
anything.
be surprised at how many people I go to when I pick up a pin from someone, and someone's always got the flux capacitor on the
Yeah,
wall
I know.
somewhere.
I mean, like I say, I like the movies. I mean, like for me, I'm more of a Star Trek now. I got Star Trek stuff all over the
Of
place.
course, yeah.
You know, but I guess, you know, that's the great thing about pinball is you get all these different themes that suit certain people. Like, you know, Mandalorian behind me, that was a must buy for me. I just love the TV show, and
Sure.
they could have literally put a turd in a box and shipped it to me, and I would have been happy. But luckily,
So, some people may still argue that that is the
yeah,
case
I
with
mean,
that game, but there we go.
they're clearly idiots. But the, I think the game's great, and I think put it this way, it's the best Star Wars game that's out there. That's my last word on it. But
The
I
bar's
mean,
pretty low there,
yeah,
Neil, but yeah, I'll give you that.
That is true. I actually bought a Star Wars, but less said about that the better. But I mean, yeah, look, I mean, Lebowski for me feels like an old game, and actually, to be honest with you, for me,
Yeah.
I see it as a a poor man's medieval madness, because the rules are
Yeah,
very
maybe.
similar, the gameplay is very similar, and actually the one that Thomas brought to the club, I have to say, man, it was the most unreliable game we've ever had in the
I
club.
do find that a lot though with boutique games, right? I mean, we'll talk about my later purchase in a bit, but I do find like you can tell when people are making machines and they're not, how can I put it, at the caliber of people like Stern or
Yeah,
even JJP. When you look under the hood, you're like, eesh.
yeah,
So
glue,
someone tried to
glue
put
guns
together something on a
everywhere, mate.
budget. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but in underneath my playfield, I was a little bit shocked to see that the rails were hot glued in to
oh,
the playfield. Like,
Jesus, Jesus.
where you normally get the two
Yeah,
prongs that should then secured in via nylon nuts or something like that. They decided that the best way forward was to bend them and then use hot glue to keep them in place. And I'm a little bit like, wow,
yeah. I mean,
that is a bit jank.
yeah, my TNA had a similar challenge with hot glue. Well, let's come back to that. But
Yeah,
and then
sure.
it's a lot of great games there. I played Spinal Tap. I mean, that was just shocking. I don't even want to spend a lot of
It's
time on
disappointing, is
it.
why I'd like to say. I mean,
It's an
you can
IP
tell.
wasted.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a missed opportunity, but I think maybe with a bit more code and definitely the animations seem to be out of sync with the shots, stuff like that. It needs it needs a real thorough rebuild of the code, if I'm honest, and the video assets need to be changed. Like some of them were just ear crunching. Like there's a streak where there's a woman greeting
Yeah,
somebody in the party. I've never watched the film, unfortunately, so I can't really call the
you haven't
scene.
watched the film.
No, I haven't. And I got to admit,
Homo, you haven't watched the
I'll
film.
I'll be absolutely honest with you. That game has put me off watching the film. Like that. It's like, I'm sorry to say it, but already like some of the
It's
video assets, I was like, "What
that
is this? It looks
that
like a B
mate,
movie at best."
honestly, please forget the game. Go watch the movie. It has got
Okay,
some of the best one-liner comedy moments of all time.
maybe
And
I'll try. Maybe I'll
it's
try.
just how it's great, because the movie tries to take itself super seriously. So the band try to take themselves super seriously,
Right.
and all around them is people ripping the piss out of them. It's just freaking
Is it
hilarious.
a bit like, would you say, kind of cheese level like the Elvira movies or
No, no,
movie,
no,
as it
no, no,
were?
no. It's not that sort of level of cheese. It's more like a comedy documentary.
Okay.
They're following the band, and they're getting interviewed. If you ever watch if you used to buy like a DVD of
Is it a bit like The Office sort of kind of humor then, where they're trying to
a,
follow
li-
like in the life of the
a
manager
little
and
bit,
stuff
but
like
it's
that?
not a little bit, but it's not. I wouldn't say it. I'd say it's a bit less groany, a bit more funny, basically. I know
Okay.
the thing that's hilarious about it, and it does actually, most people don't realize it, is you got to pay attention to it. The actual dialogue is the best part of the movie. I mean, just some
It
of the.
sounds like when they've built that, then they haven't really thought about those moments
Oh,
because they're not
they
coming
haven't at
out.
all. I mean,
Yeah.
like there's one bit where they use the word shit sandwich. It's fucking. It's the most hilarious. When I first heard this, when I saw it, right, I was literally laughing. I had to rewind the movie because it
Right.
made me laugh for so much. I'd missed half the film. I had to rewind it, and every time I thought about it, it just made me laugh again. And it's not. I couldn't even get to a point where it came out. And then there's another one with where he sticks his pink missile up you, and again that it plays that song, but there's no link to the game. And I mean,
It feels like the humor's been lost because I got to admit, I'm not really seeing it when I play the
yeah,
game.
there's no humor in that at all. I
No.
think what they've done is let's just slap all this together and it should be funny, and they failed, right?
It's a
I take
weird
your point
eclectic
about
game as well, isn't it? Because it's got like a chime in it that's like an EM. It's got a DMD in it and a color LCD. It's like, and then strangely, right, it's got Marshall emblems above the speakers, but they're not Marshall
some
speakers.
speakers.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
as a brand, it'd be like saying, here's Bose, but it hasn't got Bose speakers in it. I would
yeah,
have thought Marshall speakers would be like, you have to have our equipment in there to use
yeah.
that name.
I mean, I suspect they might get away with it because I predict Marshall don't make a speaker that would fit a pinball machine. But you
Potentially,
could,
yeah.
it might be maybe the bass. Sorry, the bass. Um, speaker. But I'm with you on that. I think it's terrible. But I mean, the simple fact is, I think if you were to give this to like bless him, Lyman Sheets if he was if he hadn't passed, or
Sure.
Rick and Elwin and say, hey, turn this into a good game. I think they could probably turn it around. I think they could make it a playable, fun game.
Yeah.
Will they make it a classic? I doubt it. But the code, I mean, the other big issue is one of the shots you can only hit it if you rebound off something. I mean, I just thought, what?
Yeah. There was some odd geometry choices with that game, especially like if you did the orbit, it had a tendency to go straight down the middle.
Yeah, I mean,
It was a bit. I don't know if that was just like leveling or something
yeah,
like that, but
I have a
it was
feeling.
almost reliant on the center post. Do you know what I mean? You hit
Yeah.
across the right orbit, it hooks across, fell back down, and then it hits the center post. And sometimes it would miss and go straight down the middle. And
And even or it would hit the center post and just go round like that. You wouldn't rebound right, but not great. I mean, let's move on to better things.
Okay.
So the again, there's some other great games. You brought a beautiful Holly's beautiful Lord of the Rings. It looked fantastic. The Monster Bash you brought was awesome. I had a couple of games of that. Some of the other games that were in for the kind of best game, I actually didn't even play them. I mean, there's a couple of Adams families there. I think the game's boring as hell. So, I mean, I had a look at them and thought, yeah, it's shiny, but that was about it. So, but then I
mean, credit to Ant, right? I mean, he does a good job in terms of like his finish.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will always comment about his machines and say, those look like brand new. And I think like it depends on where you're coming from. See, the thing is, I always find with at least with our work, because I say our, so I have to give credit to Holly, right? She does a lot of work, especially on that Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Is that I feel we definitely don't go for originality. That is just something I don't ever want to aspire to. I mean, we talk about like our latest project later, but that's definitely far from original. And I feel like, at least with pinball, I've found that that's a little bit open. People can create something that isn't original and still get appreciation. But on the whole, I mean, I even saw some comments from people doing tours of the tournament, tours of the Pinfest, I mean, and one guy in particular stops in front of our machine on his video and goes, this was in Lord of the Rings, and he goes, it's nice, but I prefer the original. And I just thought that's exactly why, unfortunately, you're never going to get everybody happy about our choice of what we've done with that game. It's like it is going to create divisions, because some people will say it's got to be pure, it's got to be as original as possible.
Yeah, I mean, but then you go and look at their game and they've painted it pink. It's I don't know. I think look, if you don't like my take on things, if you don't like the style, okay, that's cool. But then look at the quality of the work that's been done.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, a lot of people I don't think appreciate when you've rebuilt a cabinet and it looked like it had chunks missing. Well, it didn't look, it did have chunks missing out of it. And to get it to a position where it looks like it's brand new, it's harder than people think.
Exactly, and that's kind of my point, which is, look, okay, maybe you don't like that it's green or it's blue or it's pink or whatever, right? But is the work done of a good quality? Does it look like does it look like it kind of lights up the room? And I think
it's small details as well. A lot of people don't realize it. It's even like lining up the decal work from left to say the coin door. And even in the latest game I've bought, they didn't align it, so it's off center. So even a factory made machine, the decals are off center, and it's like Indiana Jones. Yeah, I mean, getting it right as well. It's not so easy. You've got to bear in mind that when you're applying decals, a lot of times it's like set once and you're done. So if you get that position right on the coin door, that will flow through to the left side or to the right side, and it's going to make it that much harder to create everything in line, because sometimes you've only got so much bleed, and bleed being is the how can I put it, the error of margin you've got between where you're going to make the cut against the cabinet and where it will finally sit on the cabinet, if you see what I mean, in terms of the finished art. So it's definitely a lot harder than people I think appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Having seen the Stern guys do it in the factory, they kind of wet the whole cabinet and they move it around.
Oh, I've seen them do it. Yeah, they're lucky as well. All their stuff is pre-cut perfectly.
Yeah, no,
when you buy decals from my end, we've got to cut it to size.
It's
do you know what I mean?
That's what I mean. In a factory, they've got control over the whole thing soup to nuts, so they can make it easy for themselves. So when you hear of a factory company getting it wrong,
Yeah.
And Stern were getting it wrong on the corners of decals for a while. It's like that just feels lazy to me, right?
It's
But when you're
the
building
nature of the
your own
beast, isn't it? Building out in bulk like that, I suppose
yeah,
they're going to make
exactly.
errors.
Yeah, I mean, when you're building your own game and you're putting your heart and soul into it, you want to comment on the heart and soul, whether you like whether the taste meets your kind of you know particular style or
Yeah,
not.
I think sometimes you have to I suppose what I would have liked to have seen when people vote for things for like best in show and that is a bit of transparency about how that decision's made.
Yeah,
So as an example, I'd be like, are you rating it, as you say, on quality? Are you rating it on originality? Are you rating it on um, how can I put it, how reliable it's been? Are you rating on errors found? What is your criteria for making that award? Because if it's just purely based on what you like, then it can come across as obviously very biased.
yeah,
So for me, it'd be great to understand like how that scoring system is put together and
yeah. I
how
mean,
just a bit of
yeah,
transparency about how it's achieved.
I agree, and I think some shows do that. I think they do that at Texas, where they got 5 different categories where you kind of give it different stars. But I mean, like I say, I mean, I'm never going to vote the best games Adams Family from a style point of view or a game point of view. But if I see a game that's been rebuilt and it looks like it rolled out of the factory, then I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 for effort and for workmanship, right? And
Sure.
that's just you just have to think about it that way, and also you know, some of these games, and I want to put this in a way that doesn't sound like it does in my head, but if you throw enough money at a game, you can make it look great.
Yeah, I mean,
Not always,
the year
not
before
always.
last, they were talking about like awarding, I think it was an Attack from Mars LE remake,
Yeah,
to win the Best in Show, and it was like, well, that goes back to what you were saying about if you bring enough money to anything, you could just say, well, I just roll up with my collector's edition of XYZ and
yeah,
say, yeah, it's the Best in Show,
listen
and
to it.
there's nothing wrong with having an award for that. If you have an award that just simply says the best blitziest machine, but then there should be an award for like the best custom
Restoration,
made
or yeah, absolutely.
restoration.
Yeah,
Exactly.
agreed. I agree. And actually, I think I mean, my take is, if if you give Phil that feedback, I suspect they'll have a thing about it. I mean, one of the great things is, I'd say about Pinfest, getting back to that, was the fact that they'd taken over the hotel. So I mean, it wasn't
Yep.
literally the reception desk was the reception desk at the hotel, effectively. I mean, the only downside was the usual hotel pains in the ass. So lots of people with rooms that were taken by someone else. Someone's, the
Oh, did
car.
that still happen this time
Yeah,
around? I
so
didn't.
I had a couple of folks that will remain nameless, but they were like, I went in my room and there's someone already there, and I was like,
I
really?
had that issue last year. I'm surprised they
Me
still
too.
got that now.
Last year I had 2 people. It was the year before, I can't remember, but it was a year after COVID, the first one after
Mm.
COVID. But we had people come in, and actually, for me, it pissed me off because I had 10 grand's worth of camera gear, and I'm
Oh,
like, holy
wow.
shit, that gets nicked, and that'll piss me off. I mean, like, it's not the UK Pinfest organisers' issue.
No, that's down to the hotel,
But
unfortunately,
the
and their booking
hotel, I mean,
system. Yeah,
there was definitely things better about the hotel. I felt like there was more people there. The breakfast
absolutely.
was definitely better. The bar
Yep.
service was better, except for when you went to pay, because they still had. I mean, they got 2 tills there, but they only used one. I mean, what are they thinking? And it annoys me because as someone who's like runs businesses and makes money, I just see them leaving money on the table. It's
I
just
did see like one of the comments I had from one of the workers because we went up to get a drink, and she was like, "Oh, we have to open up the bar early because people are asking for drinks." I said, "Think you don't understand? Like a lot of the people here are going to be
they're
probably up."
really here for the drinks, for God's sake.
Exactly. I was thinking it's the weekend. It's a long how can I put it? Event. People are going to be drinking throughout the
And then,
day.
and then you got James from Majestic, who buys a £32 gin and drops it. You want to have the bar open for crazies like him. I'm sure he'll appreciate me saying that, but
That's a bit of a rough one, isn't it? To drop
yeah,
that.
he was like, ah! And by that time he probably had enough gin that actually it was probably a good thing he didn't drink it. But he was in great spirits. Was our James, and dancing away at the karaoke. I mean, the other highlight, the show. I mean, I wasn't part of it, but it was great to see a big women's contingent in the women's comp. I think they had like 40 people there. I think.
Yeah, it was a good turnout, definitely.
Well done to Ilsa and all the folks that organised that. It's great to see. And then the other highlight for me, I really enjoyed. I mean, I was kind of there. First time I've been at a show in a while where I'm not helping doing something at the show. So I was just a normal punter.
I was going to say, you get to enjoy it a little bit more, don't you? That's it.
And I absolutely did. It was great just being able to do whatever you want to do, go back to the room, get a shower, change, come back out, eat, do whatever you want to do at whatever time. And we went out, and then I kind of, started to play a few of the competition games, and I found the tournament a bit harder than previous years.
So why'd you find it harder then?
Well, so look, the format that Wayne and Paul run is a card format. So you've got to get 3 games on your card. So if you get 3 good games, you're in good shape. If you get 2 good games and 1 okay game, you're on the bubble, right? You've got to be consistent. And so immediately you're looking at a bank of 10 games, and you're trying to thread, okay, which games should I play? Which are the games I know the best or feel confident about getting good scores on? And actually, I went in there pretty upbeat because there was lots of games I thought, I'm feeling good about this year.
Yeah.
Because there's Metallica, I own the game. There's Godzilla, I own the game. There's Bond, I own the game. There's Foo Fighters, I own the game.
What game do you not own, Neil? Let's face it.
Yes. So, but like you're in a position where you and even there was a Game of Thrones there in the game, but I don't like Game of Thrones, so I wouldn't play it. But
I still want that game personally. But why do you not like it then? Just quickly on that.
I just find it a bit overly complex, and when I just want to keep stopping, you got to start thing. I don't know, and I just find the layout a bit too close to the flipper for my.
Is that the Pro one, or is that based on both models? Like
on both models, I own a premium. It's at the club, and
right.
It's not a terrible game. Don't get me wrong. I'm also not a big fan of Game of Thrones. It's not a big TV show for me. So
see, I liked it other than the last season, but
yeah,
it was good for me.
I mean, it's like I say, it's a decent game. Steve Ritchie, who I love, but I just never gelled with me. But it's not the worst game I played. I mean, and then actually the Game of Thrones, I didn't actually play it because I knew it would be difficult to score high on it. It's a billion sort of game.
Oh wow!
They put a post on the right hand orbit that basically, when the ball came down, it went straight down the middle. So you had to kind of slap save it.
When you say they did that, what, Stern designed it with that?
No. Wayne and Paul made a change. I don't know if it was Wayne or Paul.
Oh, so increase the difficulty.
Yeah,
I see.
They tried to make it a bit more challenging, which and actually it was kind of weird because I played it in the finals on the Sunday, and the post, whatever they'd done, had stopped working because it played fine for me. I was waiting to have to hit because everyone warned me about you need to slap save it, and I didn't, and it came straight to my flipper. I was like, I don't know what the fuss is about. But getting back to the game choice, so I'm like, yeah, quid's in, man. I'll do Metallica, Godzilla, and Bond. Life is good, right? I'm like, this is going to be great. So step up to Metallica on the Friday night, and I literally ordered a large gin after it. I mean, it was.
Hope you didn't drop it.
Yeah, no. On the game, I wish I had done. No, I'm just kidding. Look, the Metallica. To say that the flippers were like had come out of a 300-year sleep would be an understatement. There was just no power in the flippers, and this is the thing. I'm anal about that in the club, right? James, who runs and he looks after my games here now as well. If a flipper doesn't whack the ball into next week, it's not working right. So that's the way I have all my games. So I step up to a game with weak flippers, and I'm like, I'm in trouble. But not only that, Metallica is like a high game. The ramps are high, right? So it was a struggle. In fact, we were playing this game for a laugh, which was like £5 to whoever can hit a ramp.
Oh wow!
Between about 8 of us.
So what do you think it was like running at like 7.5 degrees or something like that, or?
No, that's the thing. It wasn't running steep. It was the flippers themselves just didn't have power in them, and I just didn't feel confident about them. And
so was that like flipper fade? Do you think, or was that?
No,
Maybe the sleeves were knackered, or the coal stops had
I'm,
given up, or
it's either something to do with the power going into the flippers, or I actually think maybe they dialed down the power on the flipper deliberately.
oh right,
And I've seen that done in competitions before. It's not something I would do. And if I did do it, I would flag it and say, "Hey," because everyone was talking about it. What's the story with this Metallica? The flippers are shit, right? I mean, that was the
right.
vibe, right? On Metallica. I mean, I actually managed to put about 100 million on it on a Friday night, and which was I think I can't remember. I need to check, but it was a top. That would have been a top score for qualifying. But the other issue with it was I couldn't. It wasn't. There was a couple of switches on it that weren't. I'm 99% sure we're not detecting,
Oh,
which
so they weren't
happens.
registering right. Was it like just down to the speed of the switch? Like if it was like going over it too quick, it just wasn't picking it up.
Yeah, something like that. It was, and look, same for at the end of the day, it was the same for everybody. So it wasn't like it was a big disability for me specifically, right? But
Mm.
if you've got like I've got the way I play pinball, because I have to really concentrate to play good, right? And if I concentrate and I'm in the zone, I can play good. And but then to stay in the zone, to keep my kind of concentration, every game I've got a path that I follow. It's the same path. And if I can't take that path, I'm screwed.
You're breaking your method, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Metallica, my path is I'm heading. I mean, and most people say this, but I'm trying to get to crank it up. And I just couldn't get it to a point where crank it up lit. So I kind of thought, okay, let me park that. I mean, this wasn't a disaster, but I'm thinking, I wish I brought my Metallica and I could stick it in here because it would
Yeah.
make it easy, right? And anyway, I then played Godzilla, and then ordered the whole bottle of gin.
It went from bad to
Godzilla.
worse then.
Yeah, it was. I honestly wanted to cry. I could not play the game at all. This was Wayne. Wayne had brought this game, and I don't know if this had come out of the factory like this, but his the left flipper on his game
Mm.
just was not like any other Godzilla I'd ever played. Right? I don't know. I'm not saying
In
it's
what
right.
way then? Are we talking like was it the how it was set up in
It
terms of
was
its angle or
just
what?
felt like it looked like it was on a very kind of low droop, which meant
Yeah. Okay.
you couldn't hit
So the
that
flipper
ramp.
alignment was a little bit off, maybe then.
I don't know if it was but I don't know if it was. I don't know if again. I think he might have done this deliberately to make the game harder. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to speak to him about it, but
Okay.
I can. So basically, and we'll talk about another Godzilla game that I had over the weekend. But I can normally in a an event like that. I can normally get a 5 to 800,
See,
maybe.
you'll have to walk me through it because when it comes to like pinball tournaments, I'm got to admit I'm a complete noob when it comes to this. I would have thought that to create an equal fair play, so that every game should play in a way that's similar to another one, that you have to have the flipper. How can I put it? The alignment set specifically via a template so that it says right, it's exactly the same
So
regardless of whatever game you go on in the lineup, sort of thing.
yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because you can make some games so easy that they'll play for like 4 hours.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Scooby Doo, right? I've seen it. Like when you say it was down, but I mean, I saw one guy on it, and he was on it for like an hour,
Yeah,
and I was
I
like,
believe it. I
yeah. I
believe
mean,
it.
like, because the game is so generous, I'd say with
Just,
the
it
with
just
the
just means that
shots.
the ball always just lands on flipper. And actually,
Yeah.
if you're Godzilla's a bit like that, right? So anyway, I had 2 goes, maybe 3 goes at Godzilla, and I couldn't hit the right ramp at all. I just could not hit it.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, I can live with that. But then I couldn't hit the scoop, and I'm like, these are two important shots. I'm not going to risk it. So, and then I played Bond. I put a couple 100 million on Bond. I thought, thank God, one game that plays as I expect it to play. Hallelujah. But then I'm
Mm.
kind of looking at like I'm in the shit because my default path for this tournament is in the toilet. So what do I do? So I had a game of Foo Fighters, and I was kind of annoyed with myself because I own 2 Foo Fighters. I've got one at home at the LE. I got a premium at the club, right? But I've barely
Okay.
played the game, and I was kind of like, you twat. Why have this game and not play it? So that when you're in this competition, you can play well. So Anyway, I had a good few games of it, and there was another one in the show, so I went and played that one for a bit. And I got more comfortable with it. So I thought, okay, I can. And I was looking at the score, and I thought, I can do okay on this. But I'm looking at the bank, thinking, what's my last pick? And I'm like, I'm screwed here. So I had to go at blackjack, which is an old Bally classic. Actually, a really good game. I like it.
Okay.
You got to get 21, and then put the ball in the scoop. And actually, if you can get that scoop shot, or it's like more like a saucer, if you can get that shot, you're in good shape. And I had it kind of. But then I noticed that lots of people were playing on it, and I thought, it's not. It's going to be if I get a good score or I get a reasonable score, it's going to come under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So I pinged a few buddies, a couple of the buddies I play pinball with when I'm in the US, and I said, what would you do? And they're like, and both of them said Beatles, right? And I'm like, really? And I'm like, yeah, Beatles. So basically, I went, I kind of. Watched a couple of videos on Beatles. They gave me a kind of strategy for it. Played it.
So you've never played it? You haven't got it or anything like
No,
that?
I played it a long time ago. I did a launch event for Electrocoin. Actually, I streamed it
Right.
ages ago, but I hadn't really. I played it like hit the flashing lights. Played it. But actually, Eric Chuckworth from Straight Down the Middle, beautiful guy, love him, and Ian, I forget his handle online, but another great guy. They both toured me in Beatles, and basically on Saturday night I had a massive game. I was like yes, and I was going boom. I was giving it the whole thing, and I got to the multi ball. So there's in Beatles by default ball 3, it gives you the multi ball like it's like a pity multi ball, and
Okay, yeah, I get you.
and anyway they turned that off, right? So that made it really difficult for everybody. But I actually completed all the modes and got to the multi ball. Basically the game is play the modes, and it ups your level as you do well in the modes, and then it lights super jackpot, hit the super jackpot. I hit 2 super jackpots. I got to the multi ball. I think it was 4.5, maybe 5 million, which put me, I think, the second top score. So
Nice.
I'm like yes, and then it's kind of late on Saturday night. I'm like, okay, do I go play Bond? So I've got this one game on this card. Do I go play Bond and
I mean, you should play Bond, considering how many different Bonds you've got. But
Well,
yeah,
it was more about should I play it on Saturday night or should I wait till Sunday morning? So I decided to wait. I just thought, right, I'm going to have a few beers. I'm going to play some ball. I'm going to park. And I'm glad I did because I came in the next morning. Actually, I had a nightmare. Both Foo Fighters and Bond, first 2 balls on both were shit. But I had a great last ball on both of them. I think when I submitted my card, I was 11th or 12th. And I thought at that time, I'm pretty safe. Even if I get a bit of kick down from other competitors, I should qualify, and I did. And then I played. Oh god, his name's gone mad. He's one of our club members as well, but I'm rubbish with names. So, and he beat me 2-0 deservedly. So I had to play Game of Thrones, and then I played Foo Fighters, and I had terrible Foo Fighters games. And again, I was annoyed with myself because I haven't played that game anywhere near enough that I should have done, and I wasn't as comfortable.
no, you only got yourself to blame there, Neil. Sounds
No,
like you
I
had
know,
enough preparation.
but I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to
It
qualify.
sounds like you had a good time, though. I mean, it sounds like at least the machines weren't exactly like, how can I put it? It's not like they were in bad condition or anything. They were just set up differently, right?
Yeah, well, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I have to say, if Metallica wasn't because they'd done something to make it like that, I don't know if I
Yeah.
would play a game like that in a tournament I run because
It sounds like they were just trying to make it harder, and I get that. There's definitely
that was my take, and
I
it
think,
worked
as you
for
say,
me.
maybe a little bit. It goes back to what I was saying before about transparency when it comes to competition elements. I think it's just maybe a good idea to put it out there
Yeah,
if it isn't.
it's like for me, like I've got Star Trek here, and the ball save's off, so there's a big poster on the back saying no ball save, right?
Right.
Because people expect it to be on, right?
Yeah, of course.
For me, Star Trek's a simple enough game. The ball comes to your flipper pretty easily. If it's
Yeah, if
you
you break
don't,
a shot and you've hit ball save, then
then it's effectively an extra ball. So there's some games where ball like I wouldn't turn off on Star Wars because you'd just be dead. You'd have like 3 balls that would just go to the
I was
toilet.
going to say that check system is not the best. It's even Guns N' Roses. I don't know if you ever played that. That had a tendency to mess up as well. It was
Oh,
really sloppy. Like,
that's the thing. I mean, we talked about this before. Like, how can you have a game where the plunge is so shit? It's the first concept of
yeah,
the game. Yeah, I mean, look, the tournament ran well. Craig Pullen won it. He played really great, and it was a well run tournament. I enjoyed it. It was great just to be able to play at the pace I wanted to play. No pressure. I kind of wish I'd got through the next round, which I did last year, but. Fair play to Wayne and Paul for putting on a decent event. And
yeah. I think, like, to be honest with you, like, I think when I was there's a story behind me arriving back late at Daventry, which we'll go into later. But I remember catching Phil, and I said to him, "How do you think it went?" He goes, "He said he felt like it was the best one he's done ever." So
yeah,
I don't know if that's based on just his experience or just turnout or everything combined. But yeah, he felt like it went really well, and I think, to be honest with you, he had amazing turnout. It was
yeah. I
really
mean,
busy.
I think taking over the place really made a
Oh, that
difference.
was the right call,
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, they did this karaoke in the bar. It was a huge amount of fun. And
It's probably how you caught COVID, Neil, if I'm honest.
probably, yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of a karaoke nuts, and I've got a party piece which is the Bee Gees, and You Should Be Dancing. And
Right,
there's videos on the internet that you can buy of this performance by me if you choose to. And
right.
it was a lot of fun, a lot of great people there, and there were. I mean, I'm not a big drinker, but I had a few beers, and it was good fun. It felt like a bit more of a community event than perhaps it did previously.
Sure.
Um, again, one of the other kind of swift highlights for me was beating Alan O'Grady and his chums at Godzilla. I don't know
That
if
was on the charity pins, right?
yeah. So basically, Alan's been drinking all night. I'd had a couple of Budweisers, but I was in good shape. I'm like I say, I'm not a big drinker because I hate being hungover the next day. But
Sure.
um, Alan goes, Neil, I'm challenging you £100 Godzilla game. I'm like, yep, I'm in.
High
And then,
stakes game.
then
Yeah.
one of Alan's buddies, whose name escapes me, he was in as well. We were trying to get Ian Waring in, but he was too much of a chicken. Um, and he said, "I'm just too drunk." I was like, "Yeah, so aren't we all, mate? Right?" Anyway, we played it on this Godzilla, which I didn't know, but the other guys did know. I didn't know this. There was no freaking tilt bob in it,
Oh,
and
okay.
I had
That's a
no idea.
surprise actually for a charity pin. I would have thought actually any pin, to be honest with you, at Pinfest should have had a tilt bob.
Any
But there
no
we
any pin in the world, if you'd have a tilt bob, you should be taken out and shot, as far as I'm concerned. But look, I am. This is all about laughing. Actually, it was the original thing wasn't for charity. It was just like we're gonna have a $100 game, right?
sure.
And in Godzilla, I played that Godzilla, and I was very confident about getting a decent score on it. So I stepped up. Anyway, ball we play for like the first 2 balls, and we've all got like about I don't know 60 million each. So
Pretty even scores.
yeah,
Okay.
literally a 1 ball game, and I just had my headphones on. I got the rhythm, and and then the music was playing in the background was really good, and I was kind of dancing while I play, and I put up 780 million. I'm thinking I've won this, right?
Right.
I was pretty confident about it, and
And
everyone
that
was.
was on the is that on ball 2 or ball 3?
I was ball three, so I was player one, ball
Okay.
three, right? Player one, ball three. So I got 780 million. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then Alan steps up, and actually, I mean, Alan's a great player, but he's one of those guys that comes to Pinfest to drink, not to and socialize more than to play
Right.
pinball, right?
There's
Which
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
no, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And probably on a if we were both sober, he'd probably beat me, I think, or it'd be very close. Anyway, he stepped up and he had a massive ball, and he got to the end. He got a huge carnage bonus, which I'd completely forgotten about. Which really, I was like, ugh. And I'm thinking, I've lost this. I really thought so. He's at 500. He hits 500 million. I'm thinking, I've got no chance now. Extra balls were on because there was
Oh
no
wow.
tilt.
Okay.
Then there was no tilt bob, so we were like moving the machine mass. There was big moves, Anyway,
Oh yeah, I can imagine that you could be throwing that thing across the floor
yeah,
at that
and
point.
actually,
Yeah.
it was funny because
Did you allow for death saves then?
no, well, I think Alan tried. I didn't do a death save because it's not good for. I just wouldn't do a death save because it's not good for the machine. It's not good for you if you
No,
screw it up,
yeah,
right?
yeah, sure.
But I think Alan had a go at kind of bouncing the ball out, and it didn't work, which made me chuckle. So he eventually lost the ball, and he was at 500 and something against my 700. But then his buddy stood up, and his name's got in my head. It's gonna annoy me. Apologies for that. But anyway, he steps up, and I know he's a good player as well. And I'm pretty sure he's a better player than Allen. And then he just had a shitter. He got 20 million, ended up with 80 million, and I'm like,
Oh wow.
yes.
What?
The whole place was everyone was watching this. Like it was like because
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite gathering because the main show it's closed at that point, right? It's just only
yeah,
open on the charity
it was,
machines.
and everyone was out in the bar. So
Yeah,
and I basically gave the money to the charity that.
yeah, it was really nice of you.
Yeah, no,
That was good.
it was a huge amount of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a good laugh, and Alan, the guy's a good guy. He's like the distributor for Stern in Ireland. He's a good guy. Runs a few barcades.
Okay.
And yeah, good.
It definitely sounds like that's quite nice, isn't it? We have somebody who's so evangelical about not only the game but I'm running it as a business as well. It's
Yeah, I
quite
mean,
rare.
I think it's I get the sense it's not the easiest business in the world, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so Pinfest highlights for you.
I think, like for me, like I say, it was nice to be able to try. I know you didn't like it, but I really like Scooby Doo. See, we're different style of players. I'm really crap, so when I play something that's got like a lot of toys and it's good theme integration, I see. I rate games completely different to you. I think like and that's shown probably by my latest purchase, but basically for me, for me, I wouldn't say theme is king, but theme is important.
Yeah,
If I don't like the theme, I'm not going to bother with the game.
yeah,
That's just the bottom line of it. I don't really care if it's like the best game since sliced bread. If it hasn't got a theme that speaks to me, I won't buy it. Sorry to say.
yeah. I mean,
Music, call outs, all
yeah,
very important.
music's probably the only thing that if I don't like the music, it's really hard. Like Iron Maiden, such a great game. I hate the music, so I put
Sure.
disco up basically. But
Yeah, I've played yours. Even at the show, it was playing like I Will Survive. I think I got into it. And I was like, this is definitely someone messing around with the code. But it's like I think like for me, I like Scooby Doo because it had good theme, good
um,
call outs, good animations,
by the way,
and
I
the
don't.
shots are quirky because
Yeah,
it's
I
like
don't.
obviously you just don't know where the shots are going to return from.
Maybe I don't not like it.
Yeah,
Right, it's okay. It's just not a game that I would naturally want to play. Like
yeah, I think that it's this
not,
thing, right?
not like Star Wars where I freaking hate the game. Right?
Right.
It's more. Yeah, it was. When I played it at Texas Pinball Festival, I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. That's the first thing
Yeah, yeah,
they,
absolutely.
they absolutely nailed the artwork. But
Yeah.
I just found that
And I think they've matured a lot as a business. You can
oh,
tell, like
100%.
Spooky has stepped up their game. The games are starting to look more, I would say, not operator ready because I don't think they're there yet. I
No.
definitely feel like though they're looking more robust. And underneath the hood, they're thinking a bit more about how everything is wired up. Because
Yeah, I
like
mean, and
obviously it being out of action, I got to see underneath the hood, so it was good to see what
yeah,
was
I mean,
underneath
and
it
I think
all.
part of that is because actually, if you do an efficient job under the hood,
Yeah,
then making the games are easier, they're cheaper,
absolutely.
make more money, and what is this their seventh or eighth game?
I think so.
Um,
Yeah,
you know, they are learning. There's no question about it, and
yeah.
also the thing I like about Spooky is they're not willing to try some. They're not scared to try something.
Yeah, their code is like unique as well. Like renewing your air supply and stuff like that, and building up your courage meter. And they're bringing innovation in, even just small stuff like with the
Yeah,
aprons, with the ball locks and stuff like that. I just felt like probably what they're missing still is the flow.
yeah,
Like a lot of their games have always been, I think, criticized as being a little bricky.
yeah.
And that definitely feels that way still. I think once they've got that element down, that's just geometry stuff, right? I think they can probably the next game they make will hopefully have all those missing pieces. I don't think they're far from it, and I'm glad that everyone's still
The,
buying their games because
yeah,
I
no, me
want them to
too.
succeed.
Yeah, I do as well. Actually, next, the quickly rumor. Apparently, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the next spooky game.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. I mean, don't get me wrong, that would be an interesting
I have
one
to
to
say I
do.
would be in on that because that's kind of just one of those cult things from the 80s that
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd definitely be in. Yeah, look, like I say, beautiful game. I think definitely, every game Spooky brings out is a better game than the one before. I think
Yeah,
Halloween. Did you play Ultraman, by the way?
I did play it while I was there. I got me. If I had the choice between Halloween and Ultraman, it would be Halloween any day of the
Yeah,
week. I think like the theme doesn't really speak to me for Ultraman. I think if I had to choose that kind of monster era, Godzilla's going to crush it into
yeah,
next Wednesday.
exactly.
Um, I feel like while it probably is quite true to the theme, again, something about the game, like when I was playing it, because obviously it's the first time I played any Halloween or Ultraman, it was good that they did the little extra code update to flicker the flipper to say, hey, a ball's coming
Yeah,
down towards you here. So you understand that the subway's carrying the ball to you.
yeah,
It's strange because as the game I've bought recently has a similar mechanism, but I don't struggle with it actually um, letting me know that that flipper is going to bring the ball.
yeah.
With Ultraman, I almost a couple of times I had to remind myself because I've watched the videos, I've listened to people complain about it, and even then I'd let the ball slip a
Yeah,
few
I mean that
times down the
that
middle.
was that was the reason I didn't like Halloween, and also I think there was a couple of mechanical things in Halloween that just weren't robust enough for me. And
Yeah,
I mean, I played Ultraman very quickly there, but I didn't. I mean, I kind of played it just to see what was different rather than play it properly.
yeah.
I do like the theme, the colors, and the artwork, and actually, I would probably take Ultraman over Halloween, but although I wouldn't buy either in retrospect, but it was great of Jim to bring it.
No, I appreciate the fact that he brought. Actually, to be honest with you, we didn't talk about it, but Magic Girl as well.
Yeah,
And although I'm not personally a great fan of that game after playing it, I definitely appreciate the fact that he brought it there because
oh,
that you're just
100%.
never going to see that game, and
Yeah,
to bring it out into the open to let anyone play it on free play. I mean, like that's a rarity. So I really
yeah,
appreciate
no,
that.
absolutely. I mean, it is a bit of a clunker of a game.
It's a victim of unfinished code, and they've done what
Yeah,
they can to
yeah,
try and do something with it. And I feel like, given the right voice acting behind it and call out packages and probably an upgrade in music, and then a bit more on the animations and that. Obviously, you got to address some of the mech issues and that. And
yeah,
it feels like it was a game that was a work in progress, and it just
yeah.
desperately needed to be finished.
It feels like a kind of unfinished homebrew to some extent.
Mm,
And no one can say. I mean, again, it's not the sort of artwork that appeals to me. But when Zombie, yeah, when you look at the detail that went into it, and actually the design of the cabinet with the screen at the bottom, there was some really good stuff in
the
there.
artwork's on point. Like that looks good. I mean, no one. I think the amount of people I saw that go up to and go, "Wow, that's a pretty looking game."
Yeah,
It has got good artwork. I feel like it was just one of those things that was just unfinished, and they've done their best to try and give you a game that's somewhat complete.
yeah,
And credit
and
to it, at least it didn't break down. I
yeah,
mean, it was
yeah.
a robust little bugger, that game, to be honest with you.
I
It never
mean,
broke down.
yeah, I mean, I think they had a couple of plunge issues, but you're right. It lasted a show. I think. I mean, the other thing about it is if you're one of these people that got one of these, I don't know if you know the story of Magic
I
Girl,
do,
but
yeah.
but basically people got them as kind of like a deal that was done so that J-pop could work on other games, which
Work at American Pinball, right? So
and yeah,
yeah,
American Pinball built them, but they arrived as basically boxes of flashing lights. You couldn't actually play the game. So if you're one of
mm,
the owners of that, and these guys come along and say, "Hey, here's a way of playing it," then you're probably biting their hand off, right?
absolutely, yeah. It's better than
So,
absolutely having, as you say, just a box of lights because that's all it would be otherwise.
and and like you say, Jim, I love Jim. The man's a genius.
Mm.
And it was great to see him and the couple of guys from Holland that have been working on it with him to make it up and running. He had it at Chicago Expo, and I played. There was a huge queue to play it. I played it there as well. But yeah, other highlights for you, Scott.
I'd say, like, to be honest with you, less about the machines, more about the people. Met
Yeah,
a couple of people that I had long chats with, and it's nice to just. It's weird again. Some people, because obviously I do these things like the podcast. I've done like the shop logs. And they
yeah,
come up to me, all right, Scott, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know who you
Who are
are.
you?
I'm sorry, I really don't know who you are. I try like to. Because I'm a bit of an introvert at heart, right? There's no great. I would say I can be pretty transparent about that. I feel like for me, getting out there and talking to people and listening to like their side of pinball and what interests them, and even just sharing their stories. That was great. I like that about Pinfest the most. I think it's just getting to see the people and know the people that are behind the names in the forum. When I refer to the forum, by the way, I'm referring to pinballinfo.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like that, and obviously, you know, as I said, I did like, for me, the ability to just demonstrate your games there, to show off what you've done. And I did have a lot of people come up to me and say, you know, is that yours? I was like, yeah, that's really good. It's best Lord of the Rings I've ever played, sort of thing. I said, like, you know, I appreciate that. It's nice to have people say to you,
oh, absolutely,
positive things. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and like you said, there's so many games packed in. There's games out in the hallway. There's
Games everywhere.
Like,
yeah. You know, I tried the Cactus Canyon there because I remember you telling me like, you know, have you ever tried the original? It's pretty unfinished. I absolutely saw that.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, you can tell how they had to, how can I put it, mod it and put like a P rock in it and then try and do Cactus Canyon continued in it. It's like, I'm definitely eager to try Cactus Canyon when I finally get mine, to see what Chicago Games have done with it, really.
Indeed. I mean, I'm still excited about that 2 years in.
Yeah, aren't we all?
But you know, the rumor is it's imminent. But
we shall see.
yes, indeed. And actually, I mean, it was also great to see you there in person as well, Scott and Holly and a few other folks you hadn't seen in a while. You know, there was a great party atmosphere outside in the bar.
Yeah, I'd say very positive attitude, wasn't it? Mostly.
The food that they put on during the day was pretty good. A bunch of us went out for curry, which was a laugh. Yeah, I mean, something bad happened to my car. I'm not going to go into the gory details here, but it was pretty frustrating.
It's pretty horrific, if I'm honest with you, Neil.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you don't want to talk about it much, but I think it shocked me the most when I had to find out from the forum, because you didn't talk about it. You acted like nothing had happened. Just credit to you.
Mate. I'll be honest with you, mate. I was determined to not let it control the weekend because I could easily have said, what a shit show this is, and
oh, it could have brought you. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If someone done that to me, I'd have taken my games and gone home.
Yeah, I mean,
it's inexcusable, that kind of, like, how can I put it?
Vandalism's the word.
Vandalism. Yeah, absolutely. I do hope, like, you know, the person who has done it, one, they regret it, but two, to be honest with you, they should be banned from attending any event.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I just take a hard line on that. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one. But look, the police have been involved.
Sure.
In fact, police went to see one of the people this week because they weren't going to do anything. But then I know a man at the Met police, and I basically said I need help on this and showed him it, and he went and gave them a bit of a really think you should do something about this. So they went and saw the person. They're denying it, is the feedback I've had, and I don't think this is going to, at least from a police point of view, I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
No, it's a shame.
I'm tempted to post a video, I have to say.
I wouldn't blame you personally, but it's up to you at the end of the day.
I've been warned by the cops not to do that. But I
mean, you know what happened to me and my neighbor opposite, right? When I was told not to do a video and not post it online, because they're very much like that. They don't want to see insight of going to social media justice sort of thing.
Yeah, it's just another way of kind of escalating it, right? And
absolutely,
again, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I first saw it, my first instinct was to post it right away. Let me tell you, right?
I can imagine.
More
impressive, your camera system. I've always seen on Teslas. I didn't realize that your particular car had that inbuilt camera system as well. So it's pretty clever.
It's an extra option, and it's not. Let me tell you, it's not. I mean, even the Tesla one as well. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. I had it on a previous car. It got keyed, and actually the cops actually.
I know we're on a complete tangent here, but I've never understood that car jealousy factor where people will damage someone's car because it's like a certain brand or because it's more expensive than theirs. Like in America, they go on about, like, you know, people have to have cameras on their Teslas because people didn't like the fact you had a Tesla.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no other reason other than that. It was just the pure jealousy factor. It's horrible.
in my youth, I had some nutcase cars. I mean,
Sure.
supercar type cars, and a friend of mine had a Ferrari,
Wow. Okay.
and he got it keyed really badly. It was something like £60,000 worth of damage to it.
Yes.
And
Insane.
and I just looked at it and thought it's just not worth the shit. And so I actually went Aston Martin, which was kind of a step away from Lambo, Ferrari, the crazy land into something a bit less crazy. The
Sure.
downside of Aston Martin at the time, it's a different story now, but at the time, so I had a DB9, and it just never worked.
I
It
was going to say to you, I've watched a lot of car shows where they like take old
just
cars
never
that have
worked.
been like not cat deed, but like where they've been cat end and stuff like that, where they've had artificial damage, and the amount of parts that are underneath it that aren't actually Aston Martin is crazy. They got
Yeah,
Renault parts in
yeah. I
it
mean,
and stuff like that.
this was at the time where Ford still owned them, and
Right.
it was almost like you were driving a Volvo because all the machine, all the buttons inside looked like a Volvo. I mean, it was a beautiful car. Don't get me wrong,
Sure.
but never again. And predominantly, I'm a BMW guy because the cars are decent. They're super reliable. They got nice gadgets,
Sure.
and they come in white. So, um, that's
I mean, I say, drawing a line on, I suppose, what you've said. I mean, like, I think you did well personally. You dealt with it the most mature way, and I think a lot of people respected that. There's a lot of people who I would say don't put you in their top 10 friends list, Neil. Let's just say that kindly. I
what?
think, but I know, surprise and shock and horror, right? But I think given what had happened to you, there was a lot of support on the forum, even from other
Yeah,
people I would
no,
say that vehemently didn't like you as a person and said no, but this is out of order. So
yeah,
I'm
no.
pretty
I saw
glad
that.
that they
I
did
saw
that.
that, and I appreciate it. I mean, and look, this is
Mm,
the thing. I had a great weekend up to that point, and I just
yeah.
wasn't going to let it spoil the weekend.
No,
Um,
I'm glad you
I
didn't.
mean, I mean, the only thing was it was a bit of a nightmare driving home because it was wobbling like hell. But anyway, and then the other thing was I'm taking a BMW, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it'll be about 12 weeks before you can get a screen." And I'm like, "What?" So I phoned up a buddy of mine at BMW GB and said, "Mate, you must be able to do something for me." And they sent one over from Munich, so it was only a week in the end. But
That's pretty quick considering, yeah.
yeah, no, I can't complain. It's just to be honest, yeah, and to some extent, for just that week, I actually, I mean, I've got access to another car, so it wasn't the end of the world. But
Yeah.
I just didn't want to, the car's only 3 months old, so I
Oh wow.
I
Yeah.
just didn't want to kind of sitting there forever, not looking great. But no, I mean, just to wrap up, in Binfest, well done to Phil and the team for putting on a monster show. I
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I'm glad that the fortuitousness of being able to go happened because literally it was not. I mean, I hadn't booked a hotel, I bought a ticket, and
Yeah, I
um,
mean, you lucked out getting a room. I'm not going to
yeah,
lie, but there must have
definitely.
been a last minute cancellation or something.
Definitely. I mean, I know when I told people, they're like, "What?" And they're like, "Nah." I should. Here's the booking.
Yeah.
So the yeah, it was a lot of fun, and roll on next year basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
let's move on to mods.
Yes. Oh, this one's going to be a lovely debate for you, isn't it? I can tell. So apologies for anyone if we start literally going
We're,
back and
we're
forth
literally
on
gonna
this.
like we're gonna do virtual boxing on this.
Yeah, yeah. So let's preface all of this so we understand what basically why we're talking about this mod. So I bought a Rick and Morty machine. I basically was offered one that I couldn't say no to. That was at a good price on a Sunday, which was at Daventry at the time while I was at Pinfest. So I just said to the wife, "Look, we got a van. It's not big enough to hold 3 pins. It's only big enough to hold two. Let's have the bright idea of driving down to South Wales, picking up that pin, driving home, then driving back to Daventry, pick up our pins, and then drive home again." Suffice to say, that was a bad idea, but it was
Very
still
bad
worth it.
idea.
I
Very
got home at midnight. I was knackered. Like it was a lot of traveling, and even getting up to get that pin, we had to travel up like this humongous hill. Like it was a massive steep incline, like maybe like 40 degrees. And my wife said to me, "There's like it was almost like a one track road." And she says, "For the love of God, if someone comes the other way, don't pull over I said, why? She goes, there's a ravine. There's an actual ravine on the left side. Just don't pull over. Just make them stop and make them pull over. So I was like, all right. So I was like, we get up to this guy's house. He lives on a hill. It's a big surprise. It's just big hilly area. So we couldn't use the dolly to get the pin out of his house. So I had to carry it out like on its legs. And then my wife's holding the dolly, trying to keep it balanced while we're getting the legs off to then put it in the van without rolling down the hill. it was horrible. We got that, and we had to rush it all through. So I was a bit worried about damaging the game. Anyway, we get it back, unpack it all. But I must admit, as I said to you before, spooky games, because this is a spooky game, Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
I've always wanted it. From the day I started pinball, I found out there was a Rick and Morty pin, and I messaged Spooky, and they said, "Oh, we're not making any more." And I was like, I've missed the boat on it by like 2-3 years or whatever it was, because they'd done them back in 2019. So I just came to accustomed to the idea of never getting one. And underneath the hood, oh my god, we said this early on. This game is a little jank. It's got ribbon cables connecting it from like PCB to PCB. It's got a fan that's about as loud as a Dyson vacuum cleaner when you turn it on. It's got
it's a Scott Danesi game. That basically.
Yeah.
So Scott, I mean, it's just people who've got TNA will be, oh yeah, that's just like TNA. So it's
probably
So Scott basically did this kind of, we're going to wire every single light. There's an LED and individually.
Yeah, he has. He's individually addressed each LED crazily.
That just means you need tons of freaking cable to do it.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
It looks great on the top.
The light show on top of Rick and Morty is up there with Guns N' Roses.
And look, I've got TNA. It's exactly the same. And there's an overuse of the glue gun on buttons.
My wife was like saying, "What's all this glue?" I was like, "He's obviously done that to stop stuff falling out."
Yeah, so I took on my TNA. There's this mod where you put this paper so that the side things light up. There's like a total nuclear annihilation on the side. You stick this mod on it and it lights up. But to get it, you need like some sort of like dynamite to blow away all the glue gun shit that's there to get it apart. It's not hard to get it apart except for the freaking glue gun madness.
That's it. I mean,
those ribbon cables are designed, they're from the BBC Model B microcomputer days. They're not.
Well, yeah, data ribbon cables. These are like IDE cables that I used to recognize when I used to build PCs back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like it is. I mean, to be fair, actually, early Bally Williams games. Any earlier, I say Bally Williams games in general. If you go to the back box, full of data.
Yeah, the back box, but they're not taking like the kind of pounding that
No, they're not underneath the playfield. Yeah, and there's some oddities underneath the playfield as well. If you were, it's a bit like Scooby Doo has this problem as well. If you rest it at the wrong point, you could crush a mech.
Yeah,
like they haven't thought about the support rails guiding against damage from you basically resting the playfield, and when it's pulled out, basically.
Yeah, I mean the team that put that game together, a really strong team.
Look, I'll say this right now: animations best, like hands down. I can't see anything that's done better. I think for me, call outs 100% best. Justin Roiland doing all those voice call outs. There's so many, even to this now when I've been playing it, and I play it a lot. More than I've played any other pin, I'm not going to lie. And I'm still hitting new call-outs that I haven't heard before. So it's definitely, for me, like music, animation, call-outs, all on point, 10 out of 10. I think like where it struggles is the geometry. And this is why, we'll bring it into a nice little segue here, why I'm talking about precision flippers as the mod spotlight for this podcast. So precision flippers then. So from my perspective, the reason why I went down this route of buying them is because, and you probably know it, the left ramp on Rick and Morty is very hard to hit. Like you were talking about Iron Maiden, where you were having that issue where it felt the flippers were weak and you weren't making the shots. I purely bought the precision flippers for this game because the shots on that ramp, you can have it go up, and it can go up sloppily sometimes, and if it does, it just rolls straight back down. And to get anywhere in the game, you need to be able to hit that ramp.
Yeah.
And you have to hit it bloody bang on perfect with the standard flippers. With the precision ones, because they're metal, they're replaced basically, to give you guys a bit of a background what this mod is. So basically, it's a metal bat instead of your standard plastic bat. And they've redesigned it, I should say, so that the shaft is detachable from the bat, and you can realign the flipper top side of the flipper once it's installed. So there's a lot of benefits to it as well. It's expensive, I'm not going to lie. It's like £200 for a set of 3, which is a lot for a flipper bat. But the bushing, which is normally predominantly a plastic piece, that sits between the playfield and the flipper, is replaced by a milled piece of metal. So durability is never going to be a problem with this any moving forward.
And I'll be honest here, right? I'll clue you into a little secret.
Go on.
If you put normal plastic flipper bats and use that machined
the bushing metal, yeah.
Bushing metal, you'll get more or less the same outcome.
Oh, power transfer.
Yeah,
because that's the thing I'm finding is like the reason why I went down precision flippers is not because they were made of metal and they're more durable. It's because suddenly the power that I was getting from these bats is insane.
It's all about that bushing. That is
right.
So I know people that buy provision flippers, chuck all the metal flippers away,
and just put the metal bushing in.
Just put the metal bushing in, and you get pretty much the same performance. I haven't tried that. I haven't seen it.
It's an interesting theory.
I mentioned Eric earlier on. He has done that on some of his games.
Right. So there's some games I think that absolutely need it. Like Pinball Brothers, right? With Alien.
Yeah.
The flippers are flimsy at best.
JGP, I've seen lots of people say when you put it on JGP, it makes the games much better from a flipper.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it on a Stern. I'll preface this now. Stern flippers, hands down, the best in the industry. Yeah. I feel like there's so many games that when I rebuild a game for a Williams Valley game, they go, it feels like it shoots like a Stern now. It's really hard, and that's high praise when people say that, because you're like, okay, well, that's because they know that Stern make the best flippers. Like they are, to me, the people it should aspire to.
And this is the thing when you play an older game, you people here's a Dirty Harry, and they're like, well, this doesn't play that great.
Yeah,
because half of it's like 40 years old, and you play if you upgrade it and keep it running well, these games can play as like they came out the factory on day one. But at the end of the day, I think these provision flippers have got a bit of momentum. We'll see them on a lot. People buying a lot of them. I personally think they're completely overkill, but.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, right? My wife loves it because she's gone from a 1 million score in Rick and Morty to a 8 million and 9 million score. They are, in a way, cheating. I think you are getting shots where if you had them go up kind of sloppy before, and they would end up, going back down towards the flippers because you haven't made the shot. More or less because of the power that's going behind it, you're going to make the shot now, regardless of whether it was sloppy or clean.
Yeah, I mean, we had it was kind of funny. I used to race model cars, and we used to use a lot of plastic and Delrin gears.
Yeah,
and then we went to metal, and everyone's like, it's illegal, and it's but here's the reality. The cars freaking went a lot longer and didn't break as much. They just performed better. It was that simple, right? They're made of 6061 aircraft grade aluminium, and it's it's the same for this. The first thing I do when I look at a game is wiggle that bushing, because that'll tell you that tells you
your fear of magic. When I touched your bush. It was hanging on by a thread. I was like, "What? 2 screws were missing? Only had one in it."
That was just that basically that happened after a tournament I'd ran here.
Oh right.
And the problem with, the bigger issue that game was they've been screwed in with bigger and bigger screws.
You could tell someone couldn't find the right screw, so they'd widened the hole with falling
apart basically. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to get it restored. Basically,
a flipper rebuild is definitely one way I think to bring a lot of life into a game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first you buy a game, irrespective of it, right? Price in flipper replacements, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I mean. And to some extent, that can just be the coil stop and the.
Well, look at Stern, right? You can get those coil stops that to this day you'll see little brass filings in the bottom of the cabinet because the coil stop is basically running on some sort of weird skates when you touch it.
That boils my blood. I mean, I remember, I think it was 2018. I stood up at Pinball Expo and said, "Stern, what's the shit show with these?"
I don't know where they're getting them from. AliExpress.
I think like they ordered like 1 billion of them.
Yeah, on the cheap somewhere. They were like probably 1 cent cheaper.
All gone. we've got to live with them. But I have to say, actually, I've only had. This is a weird thing, right? I've
Yeah.
actually only had that coil stop problem
I've
on
had
the.
it twice. I had it on my JPLE and a Turles.
Yeah, see, I never. Actually, no, I did get it on my JPLE, but the other game I got it on was I had a Godzilla Pro in the club, and it happened almost almost 50 games, and I had to
They
replace.
can do, yeah. They literally just break straight away.
And it's just such a shit show
It's a
of.
bit like the balls, though, right? I mean,
Oh
like
yeah,
it's been covered on by other podcasts, but
yeah.
like the balls, like damn, you just
I
want to
don't even
replace
put
them
I don't
straight
even put
away.
stern balls in. I mean, I use Ninja. I use them at the
Yeah,
club, and they're 100% the best balls that you can buy in my view. But I
I've
mean,
got loads of them here, but like they cost so much to
oh
import.
yeah, I know. I mean, this thing I try and buy them when I'm out there, and
I don't blame you.
weigh a ton. Like,
Yeah,
you add like 5 kilos to your luggage just with like 20 balls or something. But
yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, I like and the provision, you know, the, look, your game at home. You know, I always people say, "I use, how should I set my game up? Set it how you like it up." You know,
Absolutely.
if it's if it's for you to play at home,
Yeah, it's for you to enjoy. You if you're putting down, excuse the real London pun here, 10 bags of sand, which
yeah,
in American lingo, it's just mean 10 grand. Let's say that. Um, it it's your money, and be
absolutely,
damned what anyone else thinks. If you're going to be like enjoying it, you've got to be. If you want to put on 5 balls, put on 5 balls. If you want to
exactly,
stick it on a bloody 5-inch tilt and it plays like it's on a waterbed, that is your game. Do what
100%.
you want with it.
100%. I mean, the only thing I say is, look, but just bear in mind, you walk into an arcade and you then go and play the game. It's not
Yeah.
going to play how your game at home. So
No,
when you
I
put
tend to I tend to strike a balance. A lot of my games I was playing at around 6.5. Almost all of them were 6.5 degree on the pitch. I think I've lowered some of them to like 6, just because I was just getting hammered. Like I wasn't enjoying the game. Some games I've kept high, just like Lord of the Rings, because yeah, that game gets any easier, you're
yeah,
going to get bored and
you're
just drain
gonna,
the ball eventually.
I am. I mean, I like I have my games high because most of the time I've got tournaments. The games are set high, not all the time,
They
but
will be, yeah.
like I say, set out how you want, and you spend 10 grand on a game, you want to get 10 grand's worth of fun from it. And if you're just,
Absolutely.
there's a few people on the forum where, I've got my game set up like this because I want to become a great tournament player. And then you go to a tournament and they come last. I'm like, I think you might want to rethink that policy
It
because
might
it's
be easier actually
not
if you
working for
learn
you.
more of the code and build up rather than,
That's
do you know
it.
what I mean? Rather than put it
But,
to maximum difficulty, just
but
step up it.
but not only that, if you lose the ball before you're able to get control of it and learn how to control it, how is that helping you? It's just not.
Yeah.
So
Which goes back to my point about the precision flippers. I'm never going to see a Rick and Morty in a tournament because damn well they are rare in this
yeah,
country. I think how many are there? Would you say like
I think they
six,
made.
seven
I thought they made well in the UK.
in
Yeah,
the UK? Yeah,
less than 10 for
less
sure.
than 10, and there were like 750 made worldwide. So the
Yeah,
chances of ever seeing that game on location or in a tournament are slim to zero.
so
Like
I mean,
I
I actually owned a Rick and Morty for about 10 minutes. Um,
oh, so why did you get rid of it?
well, basically, I'll be honest here. I didn't want to get rid of it. I just had nowhere to put it,
So
and
you imagine that's quite a good investment piece, even
yeah,
if you didn't want to.
someone offered
Yeah,
me a bit more than I'd paid for it, and I thought, you know what, yeah, take it, because I just had no. I mean, my garage was rammed with pins. I
I
had
was actually getting to the point where you remember. I think I was talking to you about getting a Twilight Zone and a Star Trek. I was actually approaching my neighbor saying I might need to drop some games at your house. It was like he was like, "Oh, great, I love it, free games," and
yeah,
I was thinking,
well, this is
"This
it.
is a slippery slope."
Look, I loan out loads of games to friends. Di's had my Iron Maiden. Actually, she bought it off me. Brad's had a few games off of me. People want to borrow games off me. Some of them are sitting in storage. If they're getting played, as long as you're not your cat's not pissing on them or anything, it's
Yeah,
I don't really care. But I'm quite happy to loan games out if people have got space for them, and it also means I can squeeze a few more into the space that I've got. So
sure,
100% on that. But I mean, look, I think set your game up so that you enjoy it. That's the whole. If you, in pinball, right? The thing I've learned, the one thing I learned from pinball most is that if you're not enjoying it, pinballs is terrible, right? If you're not able
Sure.
to, get something out of it, but if you're not getting something out of it, and it's not fun, then basically you're just this kind of big meat thing pumping a ball around a wooden playfield, and when it's like, why would you do that? So say if you've bought a game, especially if you're a noob, set it up to be easy, learn how to control the ball, and then
Yeah,
gradually,
learn it first and build your
yeah,
skill set. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
ask, loads of. I mean, there's a million videos on YouTube about pinball. That's a great thing. When I was a kid trying to learn, like I was playing pinball in the arcade when I was 16, 17. I didn't know that you could just capture the ball. I thought you just, whenever the ball hit a flipper, you hit the flipper, right? That was the way I played.
Yeah.
I'm kind of annoyed that, wait a minute, there's other ways of playing this. And, back in when I was a kid, no one played, in our arcade, there was 3 or 4 pinball machines. I was the only person that actually played them. And I kind of annoys me that, I didn't have
Well, I don't know about you, but anybody I find is still new to pinball or hasn't played pinball before will sometimes just say to me, "Oh, it's a game of luck, though, isn't it?
yeah,
Or a game
100%.
of chance." I hate that. It triggers me so much. I'm like,
I've had that so
I've
many
had a math teacher tell that to me, and I'm like, "You bloody understand geometry, right?"
Yeah, no.
Like,
I mean, it is kind of that is kind of infuriating. It's like when you say there's 2 things that piss me off, like at a dinner table. One is pinball's all luck. The other one is, and this one you'll get. Well, no one actually went to the moon. It was a movie, right?
oh God, don't.
And yeah, I mean that.
It's almost as good as the Earth is flat.
Yeah, I mean that when someone, I was actually at dinner recently where someone hit me with that, and I was in such a mood. I was like, right, I'm gonna go full anal. Why you're wrong. And it was kind of funny at the end of it, and the guy was like, okay, I was wrong. But it's kind
It's
of
still a feat of engineering, isn't it? Let's face
uh,
it, that we actually even managed to land on the moon with what they had.
when you look at, I
Most
mean,
calculators were more powerful than the computers they had by then.
when you look at the hand drawn pictures of stuff, I've got the blueprints for a lot of stuff on. I've got this big. As you have never been in my house, you need to come down, man, because I got this room
Yeah, I
full
know.
of stuff, right?
It's a threat I keep intending to make. I
I,
will eventually do it.
anyone's welcome to come down, and look, this room, I got this room full of this, like, I've got an expensive hobby, pinball, and then I've got a fucking really expensive hobby collecting NASA stuff, right? And
Right.
this will make some of this stuff, the
I can
cost.
only imagine how much that stuff costs,
Yeah,
actually.
honestly, if I told you, you'd be like, "What? You're a nutter."
Have you got? It's probably a stupid question, but I imagine you've already got like actual space rocks from the moon, right?
I do not know. Actually, it's illegal
Oh,
to
okay.
possess them. No,
Is
so
it? I didn't know
I
that. Okay.
have got meteorites that are allegedly from the moon.
Okay.
Not sure if they are.
Anything picked up from the moon? Is that because of like the radiation or something like that, or is
Well,
there just some
basically,
other reasoning?
the US passed a law around the ownership of the moon rocks,
Oh.
and lots of countries signed up to. I think the UN signed up to it, and it's illegal to own them. They're geological protected or something, right?
Fair
Actually,
enough.
it's illegal to walk. I find this incredible, but it's actually illegal to walk in any of the Apollo landing sites. There's an
Oh,
exclusion zone
because they're
around.
like seen as historical landmarks then.
Yeah, and also the fact. I mean, the problem is that if you probably touch any of the thing, it would probably just fall apart. So they're kind
Oh
of
wow.
protected. And I think that's a UN like approved agreement with all countries.
Mm.
And I kind of hope that a rover goes back. I mean, this is the thing. The Indian rover
Yeah,
that
they
just,
landed on the south side of the moon, didn't they?
yeah,
The
but they took
dark side of the moon, as they
yeah, they
call it.
took pictures of, I think, Apollo 11, Apollo 12, the landing sites, or was it 16 and 17, one of the missions. And again, it's another obvious thing that you can see people's footprints. You can see it's just another.
Like we had to keep proving the
Yeah,
world is
exactly.
round and that we landed on the moon, right?
For me, it's like the fourth country that isn't the US that has basically said, yeah, this must have happened. So from my
Yeah.
point of view, but I mean, I'm lucky I've met 9 of the 12 people who walked on the moon. So
Oh wow.
I kind of know that you meet someone like Gene Cernan. Actually, if you haven't seen the movie The Last Man on the Moon, it's a
No, I
documentary
haven't.
about. Look, mate, go and watch this. It's a documentary about a guy called Gene Cernan. Someone I knew for 10, 15 years. I mean, I'm named after Neil Armstrong, right? And I was lucky enough to meet Neil Armstrong once by pure accident. The whole Apollo thing's been a big, if I look at my personal career, it got me into engineering, to computer program. I wanted to go to MIT because that's where they wrote all the software. I went to MIT. That's how I met Neil Armstrong. Just loads of things in my life has been guided by this. And
Sure.
when you meet someone, and the technology is one thing, right? But the people around the technology, and I've met flight controllers, designers from Boeing who just did all the engine design. When you meet these people, and you talk and you see the passion and the capability, and Gene Cernan, the world would be a better place if more people met him. He's just an amazing individual, and actually he changed my whole. I used to be quite and I still am naturally a cynical person, a kind of a doubter or a disbeliever.
Right.
But what Gene Cernan gave me a gift, and that was the gift of kind of going out and making things happen. I was kind of like 20 years ago. I was kind of one of these people that basically would just laugh at everyone doing a shit job, and I still do. Don't get me wrong, right? But
Right.
I'd never be a person that would go out and do something like the UK Open. I would never be a person that would go out and do that. It just wasn't something I would do. But
well, it's a good segue. Let's talk about UK Open, because obviously that's something that you've helped. Well, I didn't say you helped. You have pioneered. So.
So yeah, I mean, look, my I've still got like freaking bunch of stuff. I've got more T-shirts than I know what to do with.
Nice.
Under them, I got trophies arriving. I got banners arriving. The UK Open team, we got this core team, are all kind of getting stuff organized and thinking about stuff. And yeah, it's starting.
You got Keith Elwin coming as well, haven't you?
Keith Elwin's coming.
So wow, it's pretty good.
Other dignitaries coming. Rich Mallet, he's a glorious guy. Levy Neyman, one of our great friends from New York's coming. Jeff Teolis is coming. We got Johannes Ostermeyer from Germany, number one player in the world, I think, right now, or he's the world champion right now. I can't remember which, but it's going to be a real battle. Escher Lefkoff, Travis Murray, another great player, great guy from Triple Drain podcast. Just a great selection of people. A load of other Europeans. Peter Anderson, last year's winners, come in. A couple of guys from Australia, believe it or not, are coming over.
Wow, okay.
A few folks from Canada. It feels like a really international platform, and we're really excited about it. But
it's good because it puts the UK on the map, right? That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot. Yeah, it's great to put the UK on the map, but I kind of, my goal is everyone comes, has a great time, goes home, and says good things, right? That's sure. The goal, and we have a couple of good games. We had a massive game on Dialed In last year. It was just epic. The guy tilted.
Are you going to be streaming it, I'm assuming, and everything like that?
Yeah, we'll be streaming it. Mark Patnod is coming over, another great friend of mine, Backhand Pinball. So twitch.tv/backhand pinball. Actually, he's streaming a whole bunch of stuff this weekend there's a big show in northeast the US and Massachusetts. Actually, I think it's called Pinfest, funnily enough.
Okay.
And he's streaming from that weekend. Mark's like a workaholic. I mean, he was just running around like a crazy guy last year. But yeah, no, we got some improvements. We got a few more players. We got. We're a bit more organized on certain things. Some things I wish we were a bit more organized on, but you can't do much until you get to the venue. Everyone knows what, like when we did it last year, it was my vision in my head. Now that everybody in the UK has seen it, the people in the team are easier. It's easier for them to help and make decisions, because last year I was like, hey Neil, what should we do about this? And I'm like, just decide something. It was a bit like but look, the team are this is the thing. Putting an event like this is a team sport. Without the team, you just can't do it. And
sure.
You saw it at Pinfest last week, right? Where
I mean, I've got to say, I mean, the staff there were so damn helpful, especially like when I came back late, after my little errand picking up Rick and Morty. They were still there packing the games away. They work hard, and I imagine your stuff's going to be the same, right? It's a big these are not light machines.
Yeah, I mean, we're moving
getting those moved around.
Yeah, we're moving 80 games.
That's so much, man.
We've got 5 kind of 60-inch screens. We've got T-shirts. We've got
So you've got like lighting to do as well, I imagine, setting up platforms.
I say that the worst thing to move. We've got those things, those rope things that you build corridors out of. You got a pole.
Yep.
We got them. They weigh a freaking ton. They're a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We got a good crew. We got working with a bunch of guys who are helping us on the logistics side, which hopefully will make it a bit easier for us. And look, we're super excited about it. We'll do a bit more as we get closer to it. Talk about some of the players to watch the next time. But yeah, I mean, it's starting to feel real. When
did you manage to get a Venom, by the way, in the end?
Nah, and actually no, they haven't started. They've only really shipped a handful of pros, and that's to dealers and shows. Actually,
is that because they're switching factory? Is that slowed down production a bit?
That is definitely a factor.
Yeah.
But also the other thing I've heard this from a few distributors in the US. I was talking to a few distributors. Look, can you sell it to me and send it to my Florida address, and it will magically appear in the UK. Actually, the feedback is Venom is the worst seller Stern have had since Black Knight.
Did get the feeling that it was a bit of a Black Knight kind of level of success, because it's not really a theme, unfortunately, that speaks to many. And I think a lot of the playfield was seen as it's a bit empty for the price tag. So
on the pro side, yeah, I mean, I don't know what premium LEs will go like, but the feedback I've had is Venom is not selling. No one's interested in it. Partly, I think. Look, also, we mentioned this before. They put out Jurassic Park 30 years, which the week after they announced Venom just feels crazy to me.
It's cannibalizing your own deals, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, like
you're going to buy an LE of Venom, but all of a sudden an LE Jurassic Park comes along for the same price, and that's like a top-notch game. It's kind of a no-brainer. But also, I think all the rumors about Jaws. It's probably not. You got Jaws, you got Pulp Fiction. You've likely got another Jersey Jack game coming out before the end of the year. There's rumors about Pinball Brothers got a game coming out. There's a lot of opportunities to spend your money, and do you want to risk it on a theme that you're and there's a new code and it's a fan layout? I actually look, Brian Eddy, he's no idiot when it comes to making pinball machines. So I think my take is it will be it is a good game. It's a case of waiting. I mean, I actually did get a chance to play it when I was in the US. I got a couple of games on it, but the code is so early. It was really hard to take a view on it. But one thing I'll say is it's a fast game. If you like fast flowy games, you're going to love this, right? Now the thing I worry about is, for me, pinball is all about ball and flipper. And if you have too much stuff that takes it away from the ball and flipper, like all this role playing stuff that they talk about in Venom, that worries me a little bit. Again, I'm not opposed to it, but how are you tying that together with what's on the play field and what's happening with the ball in front of you? It's really important.
Because that's the thing, right? From what I've seen, it can make bosses easier the higher the difficulty you get with the higher your characters get in terms of its level. But that kind of simplistic, just like, it's a bit like going back to the early days of like a game like Diablo, right? And you go, right, I'm going to go into Act 2, and my character isn't that strong. I'll stay in Act 1, and I'll build up a bit, and then I'll go back into Act 2. There isn't really any skill involved other than just grind.
It's just grind, exactly. And I'm that's for me the difference between strategy and role playing sometimes, which is strategy is you're doing, role playing is you're grinding, and I have to say I hate grinding. So
grinding, I mean, like any kind of game that you play with an RPG element where it's got a heavy amount of grind in it, like World of Warcraft, something like that, it can really grind on you, pun intended.
Back in the Apple days, we wrote a hack so that you could grind automatically, just so you could build up your characters. This was on.
You're probably going to say something like RuneScape.
Wizardry, Bane of the Cosmic Forge. There's an old game. Google.
That's an old one. I thought you were going to say RuneScape, but yeah, that's even older. By the sounds of it.
But this is a great game on the Apple II. It was amazing. I used to play it for hours as a kid. But look, I think we're out of time, Scott. I think we covered most of what we wanted to cover. A few things that we probably didn't quite get to, but look, great that you got Rick and Morty. Enjoy it. It's a funny game. Scott Danesi is a great guy, and I think he's going to be a Pinball Expo as well. In fact, he will be because he lives near it. So
Well, if you see him, you can tell him from me. I really enjoy the game, and it's
yeah,
a keeper for me.
and
It's to be honest, it's taken my top one list. I actually enjoy it that much.
Eric, the guy who did code on it, he's actually the guy who wrote the code for Cactus Canyon Continued.
All right.
He's a really great guy on Pinside. He's EP the Geek, really good guy. Actually, during COVID, we played in a virtual reality golf league with the Facebook.
With the Quest
Yeah,
headset.
those guys were great. I was terrible, but it was a lot of fun. They were very welcome. But yeah, so Luke, wrapping up. There's a couple of events coming up that we mentioned. Pinfest, UK Open will be Pinfest next year. There's and actually, so we'll cover a little bit about that. Then I'm actually off to the US to play in the New York pinball tournament, and I'm actually going to be in the US for 3 months. So sorry, 3 months.
Oh wow.
3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. So we'll probably record.
I was going to say 3 or 4 months. You got a good holiday.
It's not mostly with work, but
Right.
we'll probably record the next one from the US, at least on my side. But yeah, look, it was great to see you at Pinfest, Scott.
Yeah, great to see you.
And enjoy. I'm looking forward to. I know
You did forget to say, because I know we ran out of time, but what game did you get this month? Because you said you got one.
Yeah, sorry. Let me very quickly. So I've actually. Did I mention Dragon Fist last time? I can't remember if I did.
Don't know if you did or not,
Actually, I've
actually.
got 3 new games then. So
Okay.
I've got Stars, which is an old Stern. These are actually all old Stern games. I've got
Sure.
Stars, which is an old Stern Electronics game. I've got Dragon Fist, which is a super rare, super amazing, super brilliant old Stern Electronic games. And I've just picked up a beautiful big game, which is another Stern Electronics old game. And I think I've probably completed my collection of Stern Electronics old games because I don't think I've
Nice.
any more. But yeah, so 2 of them are coming from Europe. They're on the way. One is about to be airlifted to me. I'm trying to get it into the
Airlifted.
Yeah, I'm getting it air freighted over.
Jesus, that can't be cheap.
It's actually not as expensive as I thought it
Matt,
would
just
be.
to ship a playfield from my house to Australia cost me £320. Like literally,
Yeah, that's the
I
thing.
can't imagine what a bloody old
Yeah,
playfield
actually,
machine costs.
maybe next time I'll tell you what. Next time, let me break down the whole invoice for getting a game from the US to here because there's a lot of people saying,
Yeah, definitely be interested in that.
save you money. Let me tell you, importing a Stern game from the US will not save you money. Unless you're buying lots of them and you have a deal
Right.
you've got some sort of
I
deal.
definitely think that would be a good subject to broach
Yeah,
on next
I've done
podcast.
it. I've imported loads of games, and both from Europe, from the US. I nearly imported
Yeah.
one from Australia, but I kind of bottled out of it because it was crazy money. But yeah, look, we'll talk about that next time. Scott, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yep.
Look again, if you got anything you want to talk to us about, pick up on our Facebook page, the Great British Pinball Podcast. We'll probably be back just before the UK Open, so we'll do a quick UK Open preview maybe the week before UK Open, and we can tell us where we've got to. Also, because of COVID, Scott's behind on my Theatre Magic, so
Yeah.
and
That I'm getting. It's too hot. I mean,
I know
for those of you watching the camera, you'll see the sweat dripping off me at the moment. It's like 30 plus degrees in the UK at the moment, which is way too hot for British people.
The weather has been nuts. Actually, I've got AC, but it's been struggling to keep it cool because it's so hot. But yeah, look, everyone enjoy pinball, and we will see you next time. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye.